I know, it's a vintage Jouef model. Well, this is going to be a bit of a laugh, don't you think? This one is number 8533 in the Jouef range. It's a vintage model of a Deutsche Bahn 260 shunting locomotive. Recently I've not been having much luck with Jouef stuff, and no wonder, Jouef can be, a bit ropey. Hopefully this one will be okay. It is a second-hand model, and I'll tell you at the end of the video just how much I paid for this. In the meantime though, I think we should get this out of the box and check it out. Well, it certainly looks in pretty good condition, very clean as well. Almost looks as though it's never been used, but that doesn't mean it won't be trouble. But let's have a closer look at this before we give it a test run. So it looks to be a two-piece plastic moulding here of the cream and then the blue part with some white printed onto it. It's all made of plastic. This is quite brittle as well. I think it could break quite easily, but there's no damage on this as far as I can see so far. We've got little holes here which have got little bits of clear plastic inside, and at the other end you've got these other type of design of little clear plastic parts in there. So it's a bit strange, it's got different looking lights front and rear. But going back to this end again, we've got a black plastic chassis and we have a coupling sticking out the front here. This isn't cantilevered and it's just moulded into the main piece of plastic on the chassis. The blue part has got some nice white printing on it. It's not too bad, it's got a little bit of fuzziness all across the top here, but not too bad compared to what I've seen on other Jouef models. And the number is very clear there, the 260909-7. Got some nice definition of the grille there as well. Down the side of this locomotive we've got some more handrails here. We've got a fair representation of hatches and little grills. And we've almost got flush fit glazing there, but you can see inside no problem at all, it's very clear. There is no details in there, it's just a flat piece of plastic. But we have another pseudo light here, just where the chimney is. And the roof is being painted silver. The masking on that is actually pretty good. Another pretend light here as well, and at this end we have a very similar arrangement, although there is no grille at this end of the locomotive, and a different setup of railings in the cream, which again is brittle, it's just the same piece of plastic all the way along. We've also got quite a lot of little bits of pipework moulded into the cream piece of plastic along here, which is really quite cool. And looking underneath you can see the Jouef made in France here. We have an 060 arrangement with a counterweight in the middle there, all connected with this connecting rod here, so it should all move, which would be quite interesting to see. There is traction tyres on the middle set of wheels, so it looks as though it's driving the middles, and the two outer wheels are just free to revolve. I'm guessing it's going to pick up from the two outer wheels though. The DB loco and the numbers aren't very clear, but they are printed there on the side, and there's some smaller lettering underneath it, so this definitely seems like a bit of a budget model. Let's put this on the track and see if it'll actually run. So as usual, I've got it here on some Hornby third radius track, and I'm using my H&M controller on 12 volts DC to power it. Let's give it some power and see what happens then. Well, what do you know, we've got some problems. Seems to run okay in one direction, well, kind of okay, but in the other, the motor's going, but it's just not moving. So something's gone wrong here. I guess we're going to have to open it up and check it out. So this part here, it was just a clip fit. And now we see the mechanism inside, and one thing's for sure, this isn't a brand new model because it's absolutely caked in something like grease or oil or something like that, which I think is maybe causing the problem. So I'm just going to take this out and see if I can clean it up a bit. So I don't think it's just a case of some dirt in here, because I've just put some power onto these contacts and I can see that the drive shaft there just spins around. So I think it's something a bit more serious. So I'm going to have to take more of this model apart. Well, I didn't expect it to have a light at the front. That's quite cool. And it looks like we have a belt drive system here, and that might actually be the problem. This is probably just slipping. So I've just disconnected the power cables to the motor from these pickups in order to be able to get these out. I'll have to solder in new ones from here. And here is the drive shaft, but it does actually look okay, even though it is really dirty. So having cleaned it up, it does seem to work, but I think there is not that much tension on that rubber band, and you can see if I move the motor like this, that it does have a bit of play. I'm wondering whether if I just put something underneath the front of the motor there, just to brace this up a little bit, it will keep the tension on the rubber band, and then we shouldn't have any problems after that. I'm hopeful anyway, and I'm going to give it a go. I've just stuck a piece of plastic from the spares box underneath there, and it seems to have tensioned it up and seems to be working. So let's get some soldering done and get the wires put back on this for the pickups. Well, that's great, it works. And we're on the home straight now. I've just got to assemble this back together and then we'll put it back on the test track for another little run. I'm just going to have to trim this little stud here a little bit because we've lifted up the motor. So I'm just going to nip a little bit off that and then assemble this back on. Well, what a fantastic result. It actually works really good now. It crawls along really slowly and it can pick up pace if it needs to. The little light bulb inside it also works. Anyway, let's put this on the scales and we'll see how much it weighs. So this model comes in at 109 grams. So Jouef's little BR260 shunter has been, well, quite an interesting model to have a look at today. It's always dodgy if you're buying second-hand Jouef stuff because you never know what's going to happen, and this model wasn't running that well at all when we first got it. However, it seemed to be that it just needed a bit of a clean up, and that rubber band drive had just stretched over time. So when we put the tension back in and then wired it up again, it seems to run perfectly now. And it even has a little bit of a wobble as well when it's going down the track, which is really quite characterful. This model isn't going to win any prizes for finesse, and it's certainly not up to today's standards, but as a product of its time, it actually is really good. It's got a lot of interesting parts to it, some nice decoration which has been applied to an acceptable level, and it's got so much character, especially with that counterweight and the connecting rods going up and down as it goes. I'm really quite surprised that I've got a Jouef model second hand, which has turned out to be not absolutely rubbish, and that makes this one just all the more appealing. I've been able to fix it up myself has given me an evening's worth of interesting entertainment, and it's been quite fun actually. Let me know what you think about this Jouef model. Is it just a one-off that Jouef managed to get one that's decent enough, or are there others in the range which I should be looking at as well? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll put this on the turntable so you can see all the way around. In a moment another video will appear, just click on that and I'll see you there. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. See ya.